Good evening, everyone, and thanks so much for attending our webinar on Southern Methodist's Web and Graphic Design Certificate Program. My name is Michelle Hamer, and I'm the Program Advisor for the SMU programs. Our Web and Graphic Design certificates are just two of the many excellent programs which are offered through SMU's Continuing and Professional Education Department. We offer a variety of career-enhancing certificates and programs to the Dallas community, including paralegal, financial planning, test preparation, and more. Southern Methodist University serves the community from its Dallas and Plano campuses. The university is committed to serving the citizens of Texas through our academic excellence and outreach. SMU's non-credit certification programs in web and graphic design take approximately 6 to 9 months to complete and consist of a combination of online and in-class instruction delivered by expert professionals in each industry. Our instructors are experienced practitioners who bring their real-world experience to the classroom, ensuring that your learning experience is informative and engaging. Each class focuses on the applicable skills you will need to become a successful website or graphic designer. We are committed to offering the high-level educational experience you would expect from SMU. During this webinar, we'll tell you more about the web and graphic design industries, career opportunities, and of course, our program. So, let's begin our session. I'd like to introduce our presenter, John Horn. Since entering the field in 1997, John has built more than 50 websites for businesses and nonprofit organizations. John has also managed the production and design of dozens of print pieces totaling well over 1 million individual units. Tonight, John will share the many benefits of both these exciting career choices. Please welcome John Horn.
Thank you, Michelle, and welcome to everyone. As Michelle said, I'm John Horn. I'm the curriculum designer for both of these two certificates here at Southern Methodist University. And over the next, say, 45 minutes, I'll be sharing with you some of the details about the certificate programs, a little bit more about each of the two industries, and a bit about the enrollment process and the experience that you would have as a student in one of these two certificates at SMU. But before we get started, let me do a couple of quick things. First thing I'd like to do is just to make sure that everyone can hear me well. And you should see on your GoToWebinar interface a little spot where you can raise your hand. Do you see that? And if those of you who can hear me can just raise your hands, that'll let me know that my audio is coming through. Oh, look at that. Hands going up all over the place. Fantastic. Great. So we know that that's working. The second thing that I'll mention is that we will leave some time at the end of the session to answer any particular questions that you might have. So as we're going through the session, you won't have audio capabilities. I won't be able to hear you. But what you can do is there's a little spot on your interface where you can type a question in. And at the end of the session, we'll address as many of those questions as we can. If we aren't able to get to one of your questions, we'll follow up with you over the next couple days and make sure that we get back to you and answer every question that you have. And if you have a question that isn't something that's more specific to your situation, feel free to ask if you'd like, or if not, you can certainly follow up with someone after the session. So with that, let's get started. As Michelle said, I've spent, around 15 years now working both in the web and the graphic design industries. For about 6 or 7 years, I was a freelancer doing website design and some graphic design projects, and that was in the mid-90s through the early 2000s. And more recently, I've spent a lot of time helping universities like SMU to create these types of certificate programs to help bring more people into the industries. I'm a big fan of both web and graphic design. Both of them are related industries, obviously, but also very dynamic. I mean, you're working with graphics and imagery and communicating with people, but also with some really fantastic technologies. So hopefully I'll be able to convince many of you this evening that this is the right direction for you. here's what we're going to be talking about tonight in this information session. Really, I consider my job to answer two questions for you. One is why earn a certificate in either website design or graphic design? And then secondly, is SMU the place that you want to do that, if you do? And obviously, I think the answer to both of those questions is yes, but I'll try to be objective and share with you a little bit about the web industry and the graphic design industry and where those are going and what kinds of things you'll be doing in your role as a web or graphic design professional. And then we'll talk a little bit about the mechanics of the certificate program at SMU and some of the things that we feel like are advantages of the program that really make it unusual and extraordinary. And so, of course, through that, we'll also talk a little bit about the enrollment process for those of you that are interested in enrolling in the program, what that looks like, what kind of aid is available for you, and at the end, we'll leave time to answer your questions. Now, I always like to start this session by talking a little bit about why we combine these into one information session. And the answer really is that there's a lot of crossover between the web design and the graphic design industries. These are two separate certificates offered by SMU. You can enroll in both, and we have people that do enroll in both certificates either at the same time or sequentially, and you certainly can. But what we also find is that sometimes people are looking to decide between the two certificates, or maybe you're a graphic designer who's looking to expand your skill set into the web area, or maybe you're a web designer who's looking to add graphic design to your skill set. So we decided to cover both of these certificate programs in the single information session, but I do like to clarify at the beginning here that they are two separate certificates. So what I'll do is start by talking a little bit about the website design industry and what a certificate in website design can do for you, and then I'll talk a bit about graphic design, and then we'll come back and talk a bit more about SMU's program. So first, why earn a certificate in website design? Well, I always say that web design is one of the most dynamic and fast-paced industries in terms of how quickly the technologies change and techniques change. It's really fantastic and engaging, but also one of the advantages of the fact that website design is still a very new industry. Really, it's only been a viable career for maybe about 15 years or so, is that you can come into this industry and learn how to be a professional website designer and not feel like you're a couple decades behind other people that are in the field, because the techniques that are being used today in website design are different than the techniques that were being used even 5 years ago. So because there's kind of constant innovation happening, you can step into the website design field, and obviously you're not going to know everything as you get started, but within 2 or 3 years, you can really become very knowledgeable in the area and really start to perform at a fairly high level, just because it's a pretty level playing field. Now, in 1995, as you can see here, there were fewer than 1,000 web firms in the entire United States. And then just 10 years later, there were over 30,000. And the web industry has continued to grow at an incredible pace. It's been one of the fastest growing occupations and industries in the U.S. for almost 20 years now. And the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics predicts that the web industry is going to continue to grow by over 20% during the next 10 years. So that means for every 4 or 5 web designers there is now, there'll be an additional one 10 years from now. And that may not sound like too much. I think it sounds like a lot. But that's much faster than most occupations, which have a pretty stable population in those occupations. So it's one of the fastest growing areas. It's also a very sought-after career. As you can see here, the Wall Street Journal every few years analyzes a slew of occupations, some 200 plus different occupations, and they rank them on a variety of factors, including kind of work-life balance, earning potential, interest, kind of how interesting the occupation, the job is. And as you can see here, they call it web developer, but web professionals ranks as the 15th top job, just below pharmacist and just above petroleum engineer. But that is to say that out of over 200 occupations, the Wall Street Journal says this is one of the top ones out there. And one of the reasons for that is web designers and web developers earn a very good living. These are median salaries, so I always caution people that this may not be what you're making out of the gate with little or no experience, but it's also very possible to be earning well above these ranges within a few years in the industry. I like to take this opportunity to distinguish between web designers and web developers. Our program is a web design program. And you'll note web developers earn a little bit more than designers. The difference between the two is that a web designer is focused on the interface. It's focused on what people see and what they engage with when they visit a website. So you're using technologies like HTML, cascading style sheets, working in Adobe Dreamweaver to design what people are actually visiting on the pages. You're also doing graphic design for those pages, the layout, the typography, all of that sort of thing of websites. But it's the front end of the site that web designers focus on. Meanwhile, web developers are more programmers. So they're working with technologies like PHP or Java server pages or active server pages, ASP. They're dealing with database systems like MySQL or Oracle. So they're doing database design work and then programming work to be able to interface a website with some sort of a data system. For example, if you check your checking account balance online, a web developer has done the programming code that allows you to do that. So they're different roles. There's certainly some crossover between them. But in this program, we're focusing on the design aspect, the look and feel of sites, the interface, and really full websites for small businesses and even some medium-sized businesses or departments of larger businesses only require a web designer to do them. So you'd be fully prepared at the end of this program to produce websites, as you'll see later in the presentation. Now, I also want to talk for a minute about career options for people going into the web field. Obviously, many people may think, what may come to mind first is freelancing. There are a lot of freelance web designers out there, and this is what I did for about 6 years. And it's a great career, particularly if you like working on a lot of different projects, if you like having a lot of different clients that you're working with and people that you're engaging with. It also requires that you're able to go out and find jobs and find opportunities for yourself and make sure that you have that next job lined up as one is wrapping up. So the income tends to be a little bit more erratic than it would be in a full-time employment situation, but I really enjoyed it for the years that I did it. So obviously that's one option for people who are web professionals, but let's talk about some of the others as well. Many people go to work in a web design firm, and there are firms ranging from just a handful of full-time professionals up to thousands in some of the larger web design firms that are out there. And many people, particularly people earlier in their career, see this as a very attractive option because it gives you the opportunity to work with more seasoned professionals whom you can kind of observe how they tackle problems, how they engage with clients, kind of some of the tips and techniques that they've learned in that web design firm. So that's the second option. So freelance, going to work in a web design firm, and then also I like to point out that most medium to large scale businesses employ at least one or more full-time web professionals internally. So SMU I know has several on staff, and even smaller organizations oftentimes employ either a part-time or a full-time webmaster. And if you're the kind of person that really enjoys working on a particular, in this case, website, over a long period of time and seeing that site evolve and grow and to be able to shape that yourself, this might be a very attractive option for you. And the nice thing about this is that you can work in a range of different industries. So maybe you have a background working in healthcare, or maybe you have a background in IT or a background in something else. You might be able to leverage your past employment history into an opportunity to work as a web professional with an organization and an industry that you're already familiar with. So that's another career option for a web professional. The fourth thing I'll highlight is that, not everyone who has web design skills is working as a full-time web designer. It may be that website design becomes a part of a larger role that you play in an organization. So a lot of administrative professionals or just other people, especially in smaller organizations, have website management as part of their role to kind of maintain a departmental website or a small business or a nonprofit's website. So adding a web certificate to your resume makes you more employable. It makes you a more valuable employee if, we hope this doesn't happen, but if there's downsizing the organization. And it's just a skill set that I believe you would never regret having. So that's a fourth option. It's just sort of it may not be your full-time job, but it's part of your job, or it enhances the resume that you have. And then the fifth one that we've seen really pop up just in the past maybe 6 or 7 years is many people are looking to start their own business. Maybe it's a brick-and-mortar business, or maybe it's an online business, but they know that their online presence is going to be a big part of their success. And so we're seeing a lot of entrepreneurs. You may be in one of in this situation. We're seeing a lot of entrepreneurs come to learn website design, either because they're going to be building and managing their own website, or maybe they're going to hire people to do a large portion of that, but they want to know what's going on, and they want to be able to manage the website for their business once it's created. So these are, I'm sure there are others, but these are all feasible options that we see people heading toward with the web certificate. So with that, let's turn our attention for a bit to the certificate in graphic design. Now, graphic design is one of those areas that we all kind of know what it means, right? It's designing things, like even this slide, a graphic designer put together this SMU template that we're using here with the imagery and the colors and so forth. But I like to point out that graphic design is all around us. And as an industry, it is growing, and it's actually growing not quite at the same dramatic rate that the web design industry is, but there are almost 300,000 people employed in graphic design jobs. This was the last time statistics were published, in 2008. I'm sure there are more by now, and it's predicted to grow by 10 to 15% over the next 10 years. So it's a very large industry, and there's predicted growth in this industry. And the reason for that is because graphic designers do so many different things now. If you look around you, I'm looking around at my desk here, and I can see a dozen different products that were produced by graphic designers at some point. If you see a logo, that was a graphic designer. I've got a little Windows Vista graphic here on my my laptop. Any kind of magazine that you might have produced by a graphic designer. If you've got a coffee cup with something emblazoned on the side of it, there was a graphic designer involved in that. So graphic designers do book covers. They do billboards. Here's a digital billboard. They do annual reports and other types of print collateral. Sometimes graphic designers are even employed to do the design and layout of websites. So you'll see a graphic designer come in and do kind of the first mock-up because they are sometimes have more of an educational background around color theory and layout and typography even than a web designer would. They do logos, cereal boxes, and any other kind of product packaging that you might see. And of course, more traditional elements like brochures and flyers and postcards and that sort of thing. but just the sheer range of areas that graphic designers do make it both a very engaging and interesting career, but also means that the industry is growing and it's more in demand than ever. Now, these are some of the things that graphic designers find themselves doing. Down the right side here, you'll see the logos for some of the Adobe Creative Suite products that you'd be learning in this certificate: Adobe Illustrator, Photoshop, InDesign, and Acrobat. So graphic designers spend a lot of their time either working with digital photography, and it's become so inexpensive now to get high-quality digital imagery that you're seeing that integrated more and more into design work. Also illustration. So Adobe Illustrator, and to a lesser degree, Photoshop and InDesign allow you to create line arts like logos or other types of design work that involves just pure creation from scratch, as opposed to working with digital photography where you're starting with an image that's already been produced. They're also working with things like page layout, of how to kind of place things on a page. It may be a web page, it may be a brochure, it may be a magazine, in a way that's engaging to people and draws them in. Graphic designers work with color theory, typography, which of course is the use of fonts and different typefaces to communicate. And of course, they're often dealing with professional print companies. If you're doing any kind of collateral that's going to be printed either on a product or on paper, there's an understanding necessary of how to work with CMYK color and how to kind of produce digital files in a way that a professional printing company can take and can actually produce a professional quality product. So these are the kind of things that graphic designers work with. All of this is covered in the certificate program at SMU, of course. In terms of earning potential, graphic designers are right on par with web designers. So a designer is going to earn somewhere in the mid-40s. These are median salaries, again, so not necessarily where you might start in the industry, but also not necessarily where you might end up. And then a senior or a solo designer would be a freelancer, and a senior designer would just be a manager or an executive in the design field, have a median salary up in the 60s or even up towards 70,000. And freelancers, I always like to point out, freelancers make a little bit more, but they also have a lot more cost than an employee would. So as a freelancer, you'd be responsible for your own health care, buying your own computer, buying a copy of the Creative Suite and maintaining that. So all of those things, even the desk that you work on and the chair you sit on, freelancers are buying that on their own behalf, which is why they tend to earn a little bit more, but they also have higher expenses. And I also like to point out, you can see the note at the bottom, is that about a quarter of graphic designers are self-employed or freelancing. And we also see that a lot of designers will moonlight. So they might have a full-time job, but then they're also on the side on weekends or evenings are doing other jobs. And that wouldn't be reflected in the salaries here. So it's a very attractive industry in terms of earning potential. And as I mentioned before, it's a very engaging area with the kind of tools that you're working with and the kind of products you're producing. So with that, let me shift gears a little bit and talk about the certificate programs here at SMU and why we believe that these certificates are different and better than most of what's out there. So first thing I'll mention is the obvious one. It's SMU. SMU is one of the top-ranked universities in the world. It's renowned for its academic credentials, and it has thousands of also alumni from SMU that are out in the workplace who remember SMU, who have an affinity for SMU. So not only is the brand very strong, they're also a strong alumni base. It's just a great opportunity. Now, along with that comes the fact that this is not the type of certificate that you can pay your money and walk out with the certificate. There are exams, and there's a graded capstone project that I'll talk about. So the academics of this program live up to the academic reputation of SMU. But when you earn this certificate, and add that onto your resume and are putting that out there as either looking for full-time employment or as a freelancer, it's a differentiator for you. The employers know that if you've gone through an SMU program, that means something. The second thing that we're very proud of are the instructors in the program here. And I'll tell you, frankly, I've been teaching for a long time, since the around 97 or so. And the instructors we have at SMU are among the best that I've ever seen. They are just fantastic. And one of the reasons for that is the rigorous process that we go through in hiring them. If you, like me, have taken some IT classes before, I want to emphasize that these are not like that. These are courses taught by professionals who are working in the industry, but are also able to create a dynamic learning environment. So the process that we go through with our instructors is we first have them submit their application to teach and a resume, and we look at that and we make sure that, one, they've got the background, the experience in the background, that they really know what they're doing, and two, we look to make sure that they have a teaching background. So SMU is not a place for people to get their start who think they might want to be an instructor in web or graphic design. We look for the best. We look for people who've been doing this for a number of years and come highly recommended. If they have those credentials on paper, we bring them in for a personal interview. We ask them questions about their experience and their philosophy, and about kind of how they approach teaching these programs. And then if all of that goes well, we have them do a teaching demonstration for us. So we actually observe them delivering a portion of a class so that we make sure that they can communicate effectively and clearly the information, but also that they make the learning, well, fun and an enjoyable experience, and that they have a good charisma in the classroom. And then beyond that, there's ongoing evaluation to make sure that the students going through their programs are enjoying it, are learning it, are doing well in the program. So the three selection criteria that we use, they have to have their technical expertise. They got to know what they're doing, and that's the baseline. But then we also look to make sure that they have real-world experience, that they're out there using these techniques with clients or within their organization, so that they're up to speed on the latest technologies and techniques. And then third, their classroom demeanor, that they're able to conduct an engaging and a great learning environment for you. Just as an example, a couple of the instructors in the program, Kim Bauer, as you can see, has been in the web industry for over 12 years, and she's worked with some very impressive clients, Blockbuster, American Airlines, all of these. And then AJ Woods has not once but twice has been ranked as the #1 Adobe certified instructor in the world. And he's the acting chapter leader for both the Adobe Acrobat and the Adobe InDesign user groups in Dallas. And he's just fantastic in the classroom. So these are just a couple of the instructors that are teaching in our program. I would say there's around, between the two certificates, maybe around 8 or 10 instructors total. The third thing that I'll talk about that we believe is a differentiator for our program is the way that we approach this. As someone who has spent several years working with clients and managing projects, I know that to be successful as either a web designer or graphic designer, it takes more than just technical knowledge. And so the way we structured our certificate, there are kind of 4 areas that we cover in each of the certificates. One is the creative, and that is just what it sounds like. In the graphic design area, that's an understanding of color theory and typography and layout and all of that, and how to put things together in a way that's interesting and engaging and achieves its purpose. But then we also have to cover the technical. So in the technical would be, for example, on the website design side, this would be an understanding of how HTML works. How do you code a page in HTML? How do you associate cascading style sheets with that HTML code to create professional, sort of cutting-edge designs for sites. So there's the creative side of both industries, and there's the technical side, understanding of the software packages you'd be using in graphic design, the printing techniques in graphic design, of course, things I mentioned in web design. And this is where many certificates stop. They figure if you know how to produce something that looks good and you understand the technical approach to it, that's all that you need. But in truth, it's not. And so one of the other things that we cover in this program is an understanding of project management and client management. So as an example, in the web design certificate, you'd be learning a 6-stage process to creating websites, starting with an analysis stage, going on to a planning stage, a design stage. We're producing a template and mock-ups and such, the build out, the production stage of the website, and then testing and launch. So you're going to learn the flow of a website design project in addition to the creative and the technical. And then, of course, we talk about the client management side and what are some of the things. And this is where our instructor's real-world experience comes in of, you know, what do you need to be thinking about? What kind of things do you need to be talking with your clients about early on in the project? What happens when things go awry? How do you correct that? And by the way, when I say client management, that applies even if you're going to be working full-time as, say, a webmaster or graphic designer in an organization. Your client might be your employer, might be your boss, or others within your organization. So regardless of whether your client is another organization or people inside your own, all of these techniques apply. And they're really critical to success. I've said for years that when I see projects go badly, it's much more often because of a lack of project or client management than it is a lack of technical or creative skills. And then the fourth area that we cover, and this again is very much a credit to our instructors, is what are the trends? What's happening? What's the next technology coming down the road? What's going to be different in the newest version of Adobe Creative Suite as it rolls out? How are techniques shifting within each of these industries? So when you leave this certificate program with your certificate, you'll have a sense of how the industry is changing and what you need to do to stay current over the next couple of years. So the last thing that I'll mention that we are very proud of in this program is the capstone project. And what you'll see here are a few examples of, in this case, websites that were produced by certificate students in the website design certificate. So at the end of both of the certificate programs, the final course that you'll take is a hands-on, sort of a practical course where you will be you'll be using all of the knowledge that you've learned in the courses you've taken to produce a professional quality product. For the website design certificate, you'll be producing a small website. It doesn't have to be more than 6 or 8 pages, but you'll go through the full process that I mentioned, the 6-stage process. And you'll do that as if you were working for either an organization or a client, so that at the end of that you will have had the experience under the tutelage of an instructor who's done this before. You'll have the experience of having gone through a real-world style project and creating an end piece. In addition, that final product will end up becoming part of your portfolio that will help you to either get a job or maybe convince clients to hire you. So that's the website, and I'll show you just a quick example of some of the things produced by some of our graphic design students. So this was a billboard, a postcard, a full sort of set of visual identity documents, again, billboard, postcard, business card, envelope. So in the graphic design certificate, you'll be producing a visual identity, kind of a set of brand elements such as a logo, business cards, maybe a postcard, maybe a billboard. You get some choice in what you create in that. And in both of the capstones, you get to choose the subject. So it could be your own small business that you're starting. It could be a company that you're working for. It could be a nonprofit organization that you're familiar with that you're offering to do some pro bono work for them. So you get your choice of project topics, and in the graphic design certificate you would be producing a set of collateral for that organization. It can be a hypothetical organization if you want. The important part that we want to see is that you can produce professional quality in products. So to summarize, these are the 4 things that we think really set this program apart. The SMU quality, the depth and thoroughness of the program, the instructors that are just fantastic, the sort of multi-layered approach to not only teaching the creative and the technical, but also client project management and trends, and then the capstone project at the end, where you get to apply all of these skills to make sure that not only did they make sense to you in the classroom, but that you can actually use them. So with that, let me tell you just a little bit more about the particulars of each of the certificate programs and what the process is that you would be going through as a student in these. So first, the web design certificate, you can see it here in this diagram. It's comprised of 4 courses. There's an exam that goes along with each of those courses, and then there's the 10-week capstone at the end. So it's 4 courses, 4 exams, and a capstone. And this is a little bit different than what we've done over the past year or so. We're making some shifts in the certificate, starting with courses this fall, which is when you guys would be starting. We are offering the starting and running. We're now calling it a blended learning certificate. The initial course, or kind of the survey course in the web area, starting and running a successful website, as well as the capstone, are going to be online. So you don't have to fight Dallas traffic to get to SMU for those. They'll be conducted over a number of weeks in an online format. The actual classroom, the online classroom, will be very similar to what you're in right now, with the exception that you'll be able to talk to audio communications. We'll have video capabilities. You'll be able to share your screen. The instructor will be able to share their screen. So it's a highly interactive online environment. The other 3 courses will be offered in class at SMU. These are the more technical courses. So you're going to come in, you're going to be sitting, you'll get your own computer where you'll be able to work, and you will work through exercises and techniques along with the instructor who will be showing you what they're doing up on a projected screen. So it's a blended learning format. In the web design area, as you can see, you'll get this starting and running course, which covers all these kind of things like how do you register a domain name, and how do you get a hosting plan to actually publish your website at the end. How do you, if you're considering e-commerce, what are some of the options you might have for e-commerce integration into a website? So the whole range of topics that are not necessarily related to the technical side, but are critical to understand as a web designer. And then, of course, you'll cover HTML and cascading style sheets. Dreamweaver is the industry-leading tool for producing websites, and the web graphics with Photoshop class covers everything from creating individual graphics to creating mock-ups of your site to designing navigation bars, anything kind of visual you'd be learning in that course. So those are the 4 courses, and there's an exam that goes along with each of them, and then of course the 10-week certificate capstone. You won't be meeting each week in the capstone. I believe you meet every 2 or 3 weeks. You check in with the instructor. The instructor kind of reviews your homework and talks with you about kind of what's coming up next. But there is homework that's due every week of that capstone. So you'll be engaged in getting feedback from your instructor, personalized feedback on your homework each week during that. So just as a reminder, if you have questions about anything that I'm covering, especially as we're getting some of the more specifics of the certificates here, you can type those into the little question spot in your GoToWebinar interface. So the graphic design certificate has a similar structure. The significant difference with graphic design is that a couple of courses are a little bit shorter, but there's one additional course because, well, all all of these technologies are important to understand as a graphic designer. So in graphic design, you'll have an introduction to graphic design course where you'll be learning things like typography, color theory, kind of layout techniques, all of the general knowledge that you need as a professional designer. And then there's a course on each of these other topics that are the core software packages that are part of the Creative Suite and things that graphic designers tend to use. So there's Adobe Acrobat for packaging up digital documents and often providing those to either printers or to whatever other format they'll be used for. Adobe Illustrator for vector graphics and layout of things like postcards or business cards or logos. Adobe InDesign for producing multi-page documents like an annual report or a brochure or a catalog. And of course Photoshop, an understanding of how to produce print graphics with Photoshop and work with different types of color, RGB versus CMYK color, and all kinds of techniques for working with digital imagery. So for each of those courses, there's a corresponding exam, and then of course the 10-week capstone at the end, where you'll be producing a corporate visual identity package as you work through that program. So that's the structure of the two certificates. They are the same length in terms of actual hours. It's just that the web design courses are a little bit longer and there's one less. The graphic design course is a little bit shorter and there's one additional course. I mentioned a couple times the exams that you'll be taking. This is the SMUlearn.com site. This is where you would be logging in to complete your exams, and during the capstone program to find your assignments and other kinds of information anytime you need. So with this, all you do is you'll see the login over in the bottom right here. You'll receive a username and password once you're enrolled in the certificate. You'll be able to log in and then select the certificate that you're in, or whichever one. If you're in both graphic design and web design, you can choose the one that you're going in, and you'll see all of the exams under there. And again, once you're enrolled in the capstone, you'll find an array of information for that under this. So this is your online portal that you'll use throughout the program. To go back and summarize the length of the program, there's nearly 100 hours of direct hands-on education. So some of that is the online education, some of that's in class, and this doesn't count all of the hours that you might be spending working on your capstone project or studying for your exam. This is just the direct contact education that you'll have during the program. Most of our students complete the certificate in somewhere between 6 and 9 months. With the extenuating circumstances, you certainly can take a bit longer than that, but it is possible to earn your certificate in 6, 7, 8, 9 months. We offer courses at an array of different times to try to kind of cater to everyone's schedule. There are courses offered in evenings, in which case they typically meet 2 nights a week from about 5:50 to 8:50. There are daytime courses that meet from 9 to 4 with an hour break for lunch. Saturday courses follow that same format of 9 to 4 with an hour break for lunch. And in terms of completion of the program, basically there's 3 things you've got to do. Complete all of the required courses, score 75% or better on each of the exams that correspond to each of those courses in your certificate, and then complete the 10-week capstone project with a 70% or better. And to kind of address those in a little bit more detail, one thing I like to point out is that people ask, well, what would happen if I didn't pass my exam the first time I took it? Well, we've thought of that. It does happen. These are not straightforward. I mean, we want to make sure you really know how to apply the knowledge you're getting. But if you don't pass the exam on that first attempt, you get the chance to go back, study a little bit more, and take the exam a second time. The exams they're timed exams. They're on your schedule. They're open book exams. So we really want, it's not a test of how much you can remember, whether you can remember the particular HTML tag to do this. It's a measure of, can you apply your knowledge? Do you really understand these concepts? So if you don't pass the exam on the second time, then what we ask is that you go back and you audit the course again. You sit back through the course again just to make sure that you get it, and then you can retake the exam. For the capstone project, as I mentioned, you'll have homework every week of that capstone, and you'll be turning that into your instructor, and the instructor will be grading that homework and providing you with feedback on it each week. And then at the end of the capstone, your finished project will be reviewed by a panel and scored based on criteria that you'll know well in advance through the capstone project. And we want to make sure that with a combination of your homework and your final project that you score at least a 70% or better on the capstone. And if you don't, what will happen is you'll take the feedback that you get from that panel on what could be improved on the website, or what could be improved on the graphic design, the visual identity portfolio that you've put together, and you'll be able to go away, do some work on that, and then come back and resubmit it. So graduation benefits. So in earning your certificate, and you can see here on the right, a group of graduates, this was a few months ago, and they were very happy holding their certificates here. We do have a graduation ceremony that you'll get to attend. The hands-on experience and real-world skills. So when you graduate, you will have learned from some of the top instructors in the Dallas area. You'll have had the experience of not only learning in the classroom, but also applying that. And so you have all of that. In addition, you'll get your certificate of graduation, and you'll have a professional portfolio piece. So you'll have that finished visual identity or that finished website to show to potential employers or potential clients. And then I also like to point out that you'll get to know the people that are going through this program with you. So you'll have a network of people that are starting their careers at the same time that you are, and you'll be able to reach out to them. Let's say you landed a fantastic freelance project, but it's just bigger than you can handle. Well, you'll kind of have a little group of people that you can go back to and say, now so-and-so really impressed me in that program. Let me reach out to them and see if maybe I can subcontract some of this with them, or just get them to work on it with me. So these are things that you would have at the end of the program. So next, the program, all of the entire program is available. You can see the tuition cost at the bottom. There are no additional fees associated with this, with the exception of if you want or need to purchase your own copy, especially as you're going through the capstone, of the software that's used. We provide all the computers and software during class, all of your textbooks and course materials, the online SMU Learn.com testing center. You get a discount since you'll be a student in this program, the certificate program. You'll be able to purchase the Adobe Creative Suite, which is the product used in both certificates, at about a 70% discount off of the retail cost, which is huge. If you don't know, it costs normally around anywhere from $1,200 to $1,500, but you'll be able to get it at an academic pricing, which is about 70% off of that. You'll get the coaching throughout the capstone project, the feedback on a weekly basis on the work that you're doing, and your certificate upon graduation. And the tuition for the program, as you can see, is $36.9 and includes all of those things up above. Now we know that some people will be able to pay in full, and you can pay certainly with credit card for this, or personal check, cash if you have it. And if you're paying in full at the beginning of the program, there's an 18% discount off of that tuition that I showed on the previous screen, which brings the full cost of the program down to somewhere around $3,000, right around $3,000 for the pay in full. If that's not an option, or if you just prefer to pay as you go, you can pay an application fee. It's a couple $100s, which covers all of the SMULearn.com access and your certificate of graduation and all of that. and then you can enroll in the courses one by one and pay at the time that you're enrolling in those courses. Perfectly fine. We also have a relationship with Sallie Mae that offers continuing education loan to individuals who qualify or who can qualify with a co-signer or co-borrower on that. Most of the federal financial aid programs like FAFSA and such are not applicable to non-credit certificate programs such as these. So there's a lot of these professional certificates. The FAFSA is really just for people who are going through the more traditional degree programs. But we do have Sallie Mae loans available, and certainly Michelle can give you more information about that, and we can help you through that application process if necessary. And then lastly, some people go through a credit union or banking institution for an educational loan or personal loan to help pay for the program. So if you have questions about your particular situation with payment, you're certainly welcome to type them into the question box, but you're also welcome to wait in the next few days. Michelle or someone will follow up, and you're welcome to talk through those things. So with that, that brings us to a time when we'll take some questions. You can see here, you can see Michelle Hamer's email address and direct office line that you're welcome to call. She says day or night, I don't know, but you're welcome to reach out to Michelle with any specific questions. She's our admissions person for these programs. You can also see at the bottom of this slide the website address for both the web design and the graphic design certificate programs, where you can find a wealth of additional information about each of these two certificates. So with that, what I will do is I'm going to open up my questions. So that's the end of what I have to share with you guys. We're going to use as much time as we have to answer as many questions as we can from those of you submitting. And then, as I mentioned at the beginning of the presentation, if there are some questions that we just don't have the time to get to, we'll certainly follow up with you over the next couple of days and make sure that we're able to answer all of those. So let's see. I'm gonna get started. Michelle, are you back on the line with us? She's very quiet. Are you muted?
There, now I'm back.
There she is. Just wanted to make sure that you were available. So let's start answering a few of these questions here as we can. The first one I should address and covered it a little bit during my presentation, but let me address it a bit more thoroughly. If you look on one of these two websites tonight, what you will find is there previously was a sequence of 7 courses that were made up the program, and that's where this fall, which is where I assume most of you will be enrolling, we've actually consolidated a few of those classes together and simplified both of the certificates into a smaller set of classes. Same contact hours, it's the same total amount of education. It's just, for instance, with HTML and cascading style sheets, they were previously separate courses, and that's becoming more and more difficult to teach those as separate technologies because they're so often intertwined. They're so tightly intertwined in the web design industry. So we've merged some things together and restructured the program a little bit. You'll see those changes appearing on the website over the next week or so. This is really our debut of some of those changes. So let's see. Other than so Helen is asking, is there a particular recommendation as to what order the introductory classes should be taken in? And with the exams, are they taken at the completion of all of the courses or taken as you complete each course? So let me answer the exam question first. Once you enroll in the certificate, you have access to all of the exams. What we find that many people do is once they complete a particular course, say it was the Photoshop course, they'll take a few days after that course to review their notes, to make sure they've read through the textbook thoroughly, and then they'll go ahead and take the course. And I encourage people not to wait too long after, let's say, take the course, take the exam. I encourage people not to wait too long after you complete a course to take your exam, because you'll start to forget a little bit of what was covered in there. So I don't encourage you to necessarily take the exam the same day that you finish up your course, because I do think it really helps to go back and review and study a bit. But you certainly do not have to wait until you've completed all of your courses to take the exams. And then in terms of the order for the courses, we very carefully, and this was one of the reasons for consolidating some of the courses together, there are no prerequisites right now in any of the courses. So in the web design area, a lot of people tend to start with either the Starting and Running a Successful Website, or the HTML, or the Dreamweaver course. But really, you could take the Photoshop class first, you could take the Dreamweaver class second. It really doesn't matter. Me personally, if all else was kind of equal, I would probably look at the Starting and Running a Successful Website course. It's sort of the survey course that gives you a good sense of the industry and all of that. But a lot of people that I've talked to who've been through programs say, you know, I took the HTML course first and it was great because I learned all the kind of technical back-end stuff, and then in the Dreamweaver course I kind of learned how that software helps me to produce the HTML, and in the Starting and Running course it kind of brought everything together and I understood the context for it. So there really isn't a particular sequence in either the web design or the graphic design certificate. We've made sure of that. Let's see, does the web certificate, let's see, Andrea asks if the web certificate covers keywords and search engine optimization. And that's a great question. Not in depth, Andrea. Search engine optimization, I would consider more the realm of an online marketing individual than a website designer. That said, we do, in both the Starting and Running course and in the capstone, we do talk about choosing keywords and doing at least some keyword level search engine optimization. There's a lot more to it than that, which we just don't have time to cover. But we at least do talk, because as you're writing content for your website, it is important to think about the kind of words that people might be searching on to try to reach it. So we do cover some of that. When are each of the classes offered? That's a great question Sabita asks. So we do offer the courses on a rolling basis. So around 3 times each year, there's a new set of courses that are put out for registration. And I'll steal a bit of Michelle's thunder and let you guys know that we should have the fall courses through the end of the year should be online by tomorrow morning. So we've just gotten the schedule finalized, and that'll be up and available. But so you'll see courses from, say, September through December available for registration by tomorrow. But of course, that's, most of you will be going into January, February, March, and those courses were typically online around November or so for the courses in the new year. But all of the courses are offered on a rolling basis, so there's always a course available coming up for each of the classes in the certificate. Let's see. The average age of certificate participants. Yes, as I see, Michelle has replied, most are in the 20s or over. It is a huge spectrum. As somebody who's been teaching for over a decade, I've actually had a couple of teenagers attending, but the vast majority, I would say, are mid-20s and up. And I've had people well into their 50s and a few in their 60s who have enrolled in the certificates. They tend to be more people who are looking to either launch a second career or maybe a website, a business of their own, but it's really a broad spectrum. Let's see. Debbie asks the difference between the academic software and the ordinary software other than the discount. Yeah, it's a huge discount. There is no difference whatsoever. It's the exact same software. I think the idea is that Adobe really wants to encourage students to learn their software while they're in school, because that keeps their software relevant, and when those people graduate and go on to have long careers in the web or graphic design industry, hopefully they'll continue to use the Adobe software on an ongoing basis. So the license basically says you're only supposed to use the academic software for academic purposes as opposed to for-profit or freelance purposes, but there is absolutely no difference in the academic software and the full cost software. Let's see. Are there career services available to certificate students? That's a great question from Evan. So obviously, I didn't talk a lot about career services in this, but what we do is certainly the instructors are a great source of information about job openings and career advice as you're going through the program. We don't have a formal placement service set up for students, but when we get job opportunities or internship opportunities, we pass those along to the students in the program for sure. Let's see. Presley asks, which version of the Creative Suite will the classes be taught from? And if I am not mistaken, Michelle, you may know better than I, but my understanding is the SMU computer labs are being updated well before fall with the newest version of the Creative Suite that's just come out. So we're in the process of updating all of our course topics and course materials to align with that. But we'll be using the cutting edge, the newest version of the Creative Suite. Let's see. Can you enroll at any time? There is not an enrollment deadline. The only thing I'll point out is because the courses, Katie asks, because the courses are put out for enrollment on 3 times a year, that if you enroll midway through I don't call it a semester, but a trimester, I guess, you may have to wait until the next trimester to complete some of the courses. So right now you guys are perfectly positioned because all of the fall courses are about to be published. They'll be fully open and available to as many registrants as, or you'll have first shot at enrolling in the courses, what I'm trying to say. But if you were enrolling in the middle of a semester, you might have to wait until the next set of courses are out to get all of your courses. Let's see, typical length for each course. Most of these courses are around 18 to 24 contact hours. So that might be 3 full days in class if you're doing the weekday option or the Saturday option, 3 or 4 full days, or it might be a set of maybe 3 to 4 weeks of a couple of evenings per week if you were doing the evening courses. So they're fairly thorough, involved courses, and that really gives us a chance not only to cover this information thoroughly, but for you to practice a little bit in between the courses and let it sink in. So I'm about 5 minutes over, and I apologize. There are a few questions that I have not had a chance to get to, but for the sake of keeping close to our schedule, I'm going to wrap up at this point. And what I'll do is first thank you guys all for attending. I hope this was helpful and informative, both from the industry perspective as well as the certificates offered here at SMU. And thank you for spending an hour with us this evening. Hope that it was helpful, and we hopefully will see you in class. Michelle, anything to add?
I just want to let everybody know that we'll be following up with each of you over the course of the next few days, and we'll be able to answer any of the questions that maybe you weren't able to get answered here. as well as we will, when we send out that communication, we will also send a copy of this PowerPoint presentation so that you can have that for your reference. And as John mentioned earlier, we will be posting the courses and the new schedule for fall tomorrow by the end of the day on the website, and I think that's about it. So we thank you again for joining us this evening, and we look forward to helping you with the enrollment process as you join our fall program. So thank you again, and have a wonderful evening.
Absolutely. Thank you, everyone. We look forward to seeing you in class.